This a special call meeting of the Economic Improvement Corporation to order. And we will begin with an invocation with Justin.
Yep. Okay, let us pray. Almighty God, we humbly come before you today in service of our wonderful community. We thank you for the privilege and responsibility of serving our community and stewarding the resources entrusted to our care. Grant us wisdom in our deliberations, discernment in our decisions, and integrity in all that we do. Help us to seek solutions that promote economic vitality, strengthen our community, and create opportunities for present and future generations. May we conduct our business with respect, transparency, and a spirit of cooperation. Give us the clarity to weigh each matter thoughtfully, the courage to make difficult decisions when necessary, and the humility to place the greater good above personal interests. We ask for continued blessing upon our city, its citizens, businesses, first responders, educators, and community leaders. Guide our efforts so that work accomplished here today contributes to the prosperity, stability, and well-being of all those we serve. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we have a visitors form available if we have any visitors.
We do have 2 citizen speakers signed up. However, they're signed up for 3A.
Okay. So we will move to 3A, and I'm going to read this so that this is read into the records. 3A is resolution number 36-2026, a resolution by the Board of Directors of the City of Kerrville, Texas Economic Improvement Corporation, moving forward with the financing of a grant project in an approximate principal amount to be determined at this meeting, to retain primary jobs and setting a public hearing on the expenditure of sales tax revenues relating thereto, providing a notice of the specific project to be undertaken, approving and authorizing the publication of a notice of the public hearing relating to these matters, and approving other matters in connection therewith. So this, Michael's going to talk to us about this, but this was what we talked about in our last meeting in July, a real desire by this board to be a part of the recovery process for the most recent flood, and particularly aimed at the businesses that were so affected by it.
Well, good afternoon. Hope y'all are doing well. It's been an interesting afternoon, I suppose, because as you might imagine, we're wearing a lot of hats right now and being pulled in a lot of different directions. And so as you all discussed this at your meeting last month, you said you wanted to consider opportunities where you could help. So looking at all of the agreements that we have in place, the primary employer agreements that we have are for places like James Avery, places like Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing. And one of the things William and I discussed, and he'll get into it a little bit, if you have questions, are what is the definition of a primary employer, right? We all want to help, and I want to do this as well. I think there are some confines that EIC and all type B corporations are boxed into. So how can you help? You can help with the creation and the retention of primary jobs. You can help with infrastructure projects, and you can help with quality of life projects. Recently, we've been doing a lot of quality of life projects. Prior to that, there's been several sewer projects and infrastructure projects to help boost a certain area of town, thereby increasing the opportunity for that to have primary jobs come in. And then most recently with Killdeer Mountain and with James Avery, 2 agreements to help out those employers. There will be, what is before you is a resolution that will authorize us to post notice in the paper and call for a public hearing 30 days after the date of the first publication in the paper to consider an agreement with GEM, which is Global Empowerment Missions. They're one of the partners that has been working with the Long-Term Recovery Group, providing building supplies and logistics warehousing for those supplies since the flood of last year. After discussing it with Todd Bach over at Curry EDC and the long-term recovery group, their recommendation, if it was to go to a single entity, would be that it would go to Jim. That was the recommendation of the business recovery group. And so didn't want to get in the weeds on, we didn't know what number, if any, that you all wanted to select. So that is blank. You have a 5-year cash flow projection in front of you that was done sort of pre-flood. So, right, some of these assumptions aren't, I think we still have to kind of look at those assumptions for the next few years. But if you look at your projections.
Can we, Michael, before we start talking about an amount, can we get really clear if this is something that we can actually do?
So really clear about is something you can actually do. Within the city limits of Kerrville are the businesses that you could help. And there are primary employers amongst them that were affected, I would think. A lot of them are stores that probably don't qualify per the statute as primary employers, right? So primary employer, a business whose primary goods and services are exported out of the community. That's what a primary employer is according to the state of Texas, right? And so I was...
Just to clarify, not by this state, but by this particular statute for this particular purpose.
Is this the primary employer phrase part of our legal code, or is that part of the IRS code for 501c3?
No, that's part of the state statute that governs our EDC.
What we can do.
Right. It's not a primary employer, it's a primary job. So it does not define primary employer, but if we are going to rely on this portion of the statute that allows us to do infrastructure and other goods in order to maintain or expand primary jobs, then we have to abide by the definition of primary jobs. Under the definition of that subtitle, that is what is giving us what Michael is talking about. Under that particular subtitle, a primary job is defined as a job that is, well, I'll just read it to you. A job that is available at a company for which a majority of the products or services of that company are ultimately exported to regional, statewide, national, or international markets. So
Does that include retailers?
it does not include retailers from that perspective. It is all about whether the majority of the goods are exported, ultimately.
Do we have a list of those businesses that are primary jobs?
Not today.
But am I correct in assuming that it's probably a small number? And they're probably larger companies in our area?
The state of Amazon being what it is today,
It's true. Yeah,
I mean, everybody's customers are everywhere across the world.
good point.
My father has a small art gallery in Lufkin, Texas, and his biggest client was selling mezcal copitas all over the world. And so he is not a primary employer, but I would say that half of the business that he sells is exported outside of the city of Lufkin, Texas. So,
Good point.
But he's not a primary employer.
no, sir.
Not primary. So
No, sir.
he wouldn't qualify.
So, well, there's a part of
Maybe
me
he
that wants to
would.
argue that position of
Because
like,
he
I
does.
I get it.
let somebody argue it for us later.
Because it says primarily, so that would be 50% or more. Right?
How much of everybody's product leaves
Yeah,
town and goes somewhere
or
else?
maybe 30% or more.
I don't have that information.
Right. The statute doesn't provide that specificity.
I just worry about who we're keeping out of an opportunity if we're doing it that way. I mean, how many businesses, majority of businesses are primary or not primary. I mean, and
Traditionally, no. Traditionally, it's
so
no. All
are,
plastics.
are we looking to fund a small minority of the locally owned businesses versus trying to help as many as we can?
It's not about what we want to do. It's about what the law
I
allows us
understand.
to do.
Uh-huh.
I just want to make sure I understand what we're talking about, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I think we want to go back to our intent, and that our intent was to actually fund the smaller businesses who were
Yeah.
flooded and having problems and having to bid. And that's kind of what I was understanding from Todd is those are the people who are struggling to get the money to fix up their business so that they can stay open and alive. So is there any other mechanism within this statute that we as a board can take a look at that would allow us to meet that intent of what we were wanting to do as a board?
So, we, it would be challenging, let me say that. Under this particular statute, you are blessed because you are a type B EDC, which means you have the broadest range of projects available. Unfortunately, the statute limits the projects that you can do. And as a type B, you can either do training, job training, infrastructure for those jobs, or you can do quality of life projects. But those quality of life projects are things like parks and museums and theaters and anything that is associated with that. So unfortunately, if you're looking at both type A and type B, the only way that we could get this to the businesses is if we could do it as infrastructure in support of retention of primary jobs. And that's why primary jobs is the essence of the discussion.
So the infrastructure portion is limited to primary employers? Because I
It's
thought
either
it was
relate-
the
comes-
city. I thought that we did a lot of, well,
Yeah,
which would be
It's
primary.
related to both. So if you're doing quality of life projects, yes, it's related to those quality of life projects. Your museums, your theaters, your parks, anything, more for entertainment. So your infrastructure would be related to that. Your infrastructure could also be related to job training and the retention of primary jobs. And that's why we're talking about primary jobs. We can get that money through the infrastructure because there's always that argument that you are using that money to rebuild something, which is structure, but the problem is primary jobs. And that's why we're talking about primary jobs, because we're not talking about quality of life projects for
Right.
type B. We're really talking about retention of jobs for type A.
Oh, we did like a lift station.
Mhm.
That doesn't have to do with training or.
It has to do with the retention of primary jobs, though. I mean, you could do infrastructure. Infrastructure is
Mhm.
its own thing.
I've heard you, I'm confusing something with primary jobs or primary employers.
So there is no primary employer. It is only primary jobs under the statute. So the employer has primary jobs, but the employer doesn't have to be a primary employer. It's just the primary jobs in that employer.
Their jobs have to deal with that they are exporting product or services.
That's the definition of primary jobs under that particular title of the code.
I would offer that my interpretation of that is that a lot of these businesses provide goods and services to the region. We are the hub of the hill country.
Yeah.
And those goods and services don't stay here. Exactly what percentages are, I don't know. But I'm willing to ask the state of Texas and take that chance.
Like-
We can help, right?
Who would be the entity that would come say you can't do this? Like,
This particular statute does not include any penalties. However, because you are a nonprofit corporation, you would also have to look at what the state penalties are for a corporation not following regulation. And in that particular instance, that would probably be the comptroller or the Secretary of State, but I don't have that answer for you.
Could this be framed as we're giving, or working toward getting funds toward employers for job retention?
It's got to be
Yeah.
primary jobs, though.
Well, is it primary?
Mhm. Primary jobs, that's why I think Michael,
But I thought job retention was part of our,
primary job retention, right, retention of primary jobs. That's what the statute says.
So I might like to talk about the cash flow or availability of funds to help.
Yeah, I think that's why Michael was suggesting, which is a good argument, that we are a regional hub.
No,
No, we have
no.
to, I mean, we.
I
before
want to talk about,
cash,
we
we
have the money.
Yeah,
How
we
much
have-
money we have to do this with.
Before we talk about cash, though, we need to get clear that we can do something. And then we can talk
Yeah,
about
but if we
cash.
don't have any cash,
We have cash.
we don't have cash.
We have cash.
No, we don't. You just haven't realized it yet.
These numbers don't include post flood, right?
That's right, this is all pre-flood. The council already pulled back on Granger McDonald Park as we can't afford to spend the money from that bond issue on the park. So
That-
what do you think I don't know what the council's gonna do, but I would say, I'll give you a little background on where we're on the budget. We just had a budget meeting on Thursday. So before the first flood, before the 25 flood, we were already planning we need to go to the voters for a tax increase because we can't cover all of our expenses. The city cannot. All the recurring expenses and the EIC bond issue is exactly what that was all. Most of that money, majority of it, I think, was for deferred maintenance items that the city has not been able to keep up on. And we continue to have that problem. And so then we had a flood. And we got a lot of it covered, and the losses were much less than this flood. But we still don't have all the money we need for Luce's Park, for example. And then we have this flood, and we have the 100 million that's identified so far to expenses to repair the damages. Now, there's no way we got 100 million. And so the city is not really in a position to be giving money away, especially if it's anywhere. It's a little bit questionable whether primary jobs or not primary jobs.
But this isn't the city's money.
Well, absolutely
It's not the
it is.
city's, it's
Oh,
not the
it's the
city's bank
taxpayers,
account.
it's the taxpayers' money
And
and
it's
the city
It's
council.
the EIC's money, it's the corporation's
Yeah,
money.
but it's just, that's still the city. This is a city function, right? This is the city, this is our citizens, taxpayers' money. And this money can be used for parks. We've got millions of dollars to spend. I don't know how much, but just for the river trail, how much this entity funded the river trail. It's the shells. But where do we get the money to do that? City does not have that money. And so this is a pot of money that is the city's, it is the taxpayers' money. And the taxpayers may like to see that money go to their city and their parks, in the EIC's case, to their parks and not, and it's a certain amount of economic benefit to have our parks in good shape because it draws people here.
Yeah, it does.
And it's a major draw, you know, when we got the parks in shape and the people come to Luce's Park and they have events and, you know, people come, they stay in hotels and pay a hot tax, the whole thing. And we're, you know, the flood happened 3 weeks ago, you know, or less than a month ago.
Right.
And even if we would do something, we have a better idea where we got, but we think that $100 million number is more than Kerrville can swallow very easily. It's made this in the discussion last Thursday is you know, going to the voters for property tax, go we're going to have to probably have debt. We're going to have to go to the voters for debt. I mean, we're going to have to do a lot of things.
Right.
Every nickel we've got, we're going to need to get our city back in shape. So, look, I think our hearts are on the right place to try to help, but we got to take care of our responsibility to our taxpaying citizens
We
too.
do, but we also have to have businesses for the people who are coming to the town. If we lose a lot of our businesses,
Well,
then we lose tourism
Yeah.
from that as well.
so then we, you know, if we were even going to try to justify doing that and try to do the money, we need a study. You know, what's the economic impact of doing this? How many businesses are we really talking about? What kind of sales do they have? How much sales tax? Or, you know, how much money are we investing and what are we going to get back for that? We can't just sit here and say,
Right.
oh, we feel sorry for them. We just want to throw money at them. We
understand
gotta justify what we're doing.
Is that something that we can get from the working groups, from the long-term working groups? Some information that would help us with that, Todd?
Thank you. So the latest update number we have is through the TDM ISTAT numbers. As of today, I believe our numbers were 102 businesses affected, with 20 plus or minus major damage, all the way from major affected into minor. How much we don't know. They're just assessments. In other words, when they fill out the ISTAT form, there is a TDM representative that goes out and verifies that ISTAT form is legitimate, that business address did sustain damage, and to what degree from a visible drive-by, what it would be categorized as. In that 102, the majority of those are within the city of Kerrville city limits. I don't have the exact number. All 102. Thank you. All 102 are within the city of Kerrville. To give you an idea, those numbers are still coming in. These aren't firm numbers. There's still ISTAT forms still coming in. We currently have business case managers through Jim that are contacting all of those businesses that come in through the ISTAT forms, plus through the Jim building materials. Plus, we've got one of our volunteer organizations here that just joined us before, during, and after, has deployed a small business strike force that is going out within the community. In 2 days, they contacted 74 in-person businesses that they went to, number one, physically view the damages themselves, and to immediately start assisting with those, anything that they could within their resources to assist those businesses, whether it be moving furniture, whether it be taking out some sheetrock or pulling out flooring. So that's a round number that we have currently, and that number changes just about daily.
So Kent, you're saying that you think that the city's gonna come back to us for recommendations for where we put these funds? I'm talking about for infrastructure of some sort in the city. Something that qualifies under our rules, but for the benefit of the
No,
community.
I'm saying that we don't have any money to give away in this fashion or any fashion. I mean, we're talking the budget meeting, we talked about, we make a certain amount of charitable contributions from the city. You know, we can't afford to do that. We talked about business. It's not business as usual. We have to make some cuts. We need the community to understand that we are doing some drastic things, because we're going to ask the community to do drastic things and allow us to have more debt and allow us. I think this is what's going to happen.
No,
we're not there yet, but the numbers are big enough that we can't ever begin to rebuild our community out of our normal, year to year. It's like somebody lost their house once and then lost it again, and it's just you got to get a 30-year mortgage to pay your house. Well, I'm not saying we're going to get a 30-year mortgage, but you can't swallow $100 million out of the budget. So we have to pull in our horns every which way we can, and try to scrimp and save everywhere we can. And the community needs to know that we're doing that. And I'm not sure And I get emails, people say, well, don't raise our taxes. Well, that's just not going to be possible.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, I wish we didn't have to, but it's no fun. And it's no fun for me to sit here and talk against this, but I lose sleep at night on the city's budget. I mean, this is a really big problem. And I'd like to help these people, and I think the Community Foundation's done one hell of a job raising money for these kinds of things. I mean, for the LIFT funds and all that's going on that Todd's doing, and it's been great. But the city is not really in a position to do that much help. Now, that's one person's opinion. I can't talk to the council about that. Yeah. But they did vote already on one park project, say no, because we got to conserve our money. So that's a little bit of an indicator about where they go.
Well, you're implying though that we have some solution to that.
Well, I think, yes.
Well, no.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. So I think the solution mainly is because we can take any excess you've got and apply it to the parks, you know, pretty much. I mean, I think it needs to go there because we need to do streets, sewers, and, you know, got $50 million on.
We can do street sewers and whatnot.
Well, man, maybe,
That's
that's
right.
so. I'm just saying there's plenty of things maybe, but we need to scratch and claw back every bit of money we can from whatever we do, because, anyway, I'm repeating myself.
So what,
I'm sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna ask, so even if we approve something, it still has to be approved by city council. What you're saying is even if we voted on something, your city council's probably not gonna vote.
I can't say that for sure, but I'm just saying, we had this vote already, and it would tend to indicate that it would be difficult to pass.
We need to help these folks, absolutely. We need the money to help the businesses and we need to be able to help the city, but I think this is very premature and fiscally irresponsible we should circle the wagons and figure out where we need to have the help and the money put first. I am not against helping these businesses. I don't want Kerrville to turn into a Del Rio where it's a big box store. My customers, my friends, my father is a small business owner. We got to help these people. But if there's no money to do it, then we need to figure out, okay, if we're going to take money from here and give it to these small businesses, then we need to look on this list and start crossing some things off and start having a bigger discussion that goes down the future of where Kerrville is going to have to take a back seat as far as its progression just to get us back on our feet. And what that number is, I know Michael said that's not what he's asking us, but before we even start understanding a resolution, I think there's a bigger piece of the pie here we have to understand is where does this money need to go before we figure out how much. And then, like I said, you really need to start looking at some of this stuff and crossing it off if you're going to give money, which I'm not against.
all of this stuff has been approved. That's
Well,
Well,
okay,
there's some things on here about future
Yeah,
but even if
projects
we
or
approve
whatever.
it, the city council's saying that they don't have the money.
no, all of this has already been approved
Well,
by EIC funds. Who
Well,
has
of
the
course.
funds?
And
for
of
that?
course, the Granger McDonald Park was approved by the EIC.
And it's EIC funds. I don't think that is something that,
No, it would come
city
back,
can
the money will
claw
come
back.
back. Oh, no, but they can use it for other parks.
not if it, well, I don't know the ruling on that, but if it was already approved by the EIC, I'm not sure how they can take it and do something else without having approval through the EIC.
So,
Used. Understanding.
no, I can answer that. I'm just trying to understand how directly related it is to what we're talking about. But to your question, either one of you could cancel an agreement between either of you. So if the city and the EIC have an agreement, then the EIC or the city could cancel it. Neither one of you independently can direct funds for EIC dollars without approval of the other.
So we could cancel some of this if they approved it, or vice versa, to use those funds to be
Some
put
of
and
what-
allocated other
Some of,
places.
what are we talking about?
What she's saying on these projects that are already approved, what I'm saying is there ability to go, hey, city, we'll cross this one off, or can we take this one back to give this money somewhere else that is much more needed in the immediate sense?
It's probably only Granger McDonald Park that's not committed and we just turned it, we didn't
Yeah,
start
these are
into
all
the contract.
committed.
These others already have contracts.
all right, so that's what I was-
Probably
Yeah,
forgive.
cannot.
Yeah, they're all in
All right.
under
The rest of them
contract.
are under contract.
I
Well,
apologize.
but personally, the city's got a veto on anything we do.
Right.
That's being negative, but I mean, that's the way it works.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
As Michael says, we both have to agree.
Yes.
Is there anything else on the list other than how much is Granger McDonald Park?
$2.2 million
$2 million.
was
So
that, so
we
one
could
point,
really-
$1.8 million is
It's right,
left.
it's remaining.
That came back into the coffers. What else is out there that possibly could be put on hold or canceled by the city that would come back into the coffers?
I don't think there's anything.
Nothing?
Nothing.
That was my question. Thank you. Sorry.
No, they've already been approved by
They've
both.
already, well,
Yeah.
and there's
Well,
contracts already
And the
issued.
contracts,
Yeah.
there are contracts that are
So-
out there
Okay.
as well.
Has the engineering already started on that wastewater project that we paid for?
Yes, sir.
And that's for
All right.
for
so-
development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for development
Whiskey and-
purposes.
Yeah.
Whiskey
And,
Springs and
Ivy
Ivy
Commons.
So, well, I do think that there is still interest on this board to help the businesses. It may be that we need some more information, but my take on it, my opinion, is that those businesses need to be present and working in order to pull people in to Kerrville. It is, if it is a ghost town, we're not going to have tourism here. And so we want businesses that are thriving and open and working. And so however we can find ways that these businesses can be seen as primary businesses, even if they are not the typical primary employer, but they are ones that have a lot of regional impact, or they have a good market that's outside of the city of Kerrville. So even if they are selling to people within the county, would that still be exporting? If it's
Yeah,
outside the
yes,
city
ma'am.
limits?
I think that there's a reasoned argument to be made that these qualify, and that we can
Right.
make that argument.
Right.
Y'all are having a totally separate argument. So the reason we brought it to you and asked you to have a special meeting was because we heard the urgency in the discussion. We knew that the Community Foundation was going to announce something. We didn't know when. As soon as practical after that, we approached Long-Term Recovery Group about which area that funding should be directed, should give us a recommendation. That's what I've got sitting in front of me to talk to you all about, right?
Right. And so, yeah, so Michael's reacting totally to our last board meeting where it was after the flood,
And he did a good job with that.
and he really wanted to have a presence in the recovery process. So this $1 million was just a number that was thrown out. That is in no way, shape, or form what we have to pass. But if we have an appetite on this board to move forward on some kind of grant money that can go to Jim, and we do feel like we have the legal authority to provide grant money through Jim, which is the
We do, but my earlier point was that we can approve it, but city council still has to approve it. And it doesn't sound like there is an appetite, at least in the near future, for them to approve it.
I don't know that, really. I don't know that for sure, because they are very much interested in getting these businesses open as well, and getting them open in a way that continues to bring people into Kerrville. And so I'm not sure, Kent is one voice on that. I'm not sure if they're what the other four people would want to say if EIC wants to help and support these grants for building materials to get these businesses open.
Well, the only way to answer that question, I guess, is to go through some scenario of how much, put it before a 30-day deal, and by then we'll know. But you're saying you don't want to take Kent's word as the representative of the attitude of the county.
Nobody needs to take my words.
I get, I don't mean that.
Yeah, no, I don't,
I'm not-
I don't mean that either.
Well,
I mean,
that's not the only word, so.
I hear what you're saying is gonna be, and our funds are gonna be important as we're looking forward into what other kinds of infrastructure that we can support that the city will need. I mean, I think that we will have some more funds. If we look at what was sent out, if we take out that million and we look at, that's 4.8 million available cash, we want to keep the 2 million in investment holdings. We do not want to touch our investments. I don't believe, that's my opinion, that we want to make sure that we always have our investment holdings there.
I agree with that, but I mean, if we assume that Granger McDonald's in the near future isn't gonna happen, can we add 1.8 back into our number?
I think that's a hard assumption to make.
No, because those are bond proceeds.
The bonds. And that was,
We'll have to go to some parks.
It has to fit within the box of what the bond outlined, which is, it is predominantly parks. That's true.
so anyway, that is, it still gives us, what did I come up with, 2.8 million. So even if we were to look at something like 500,000, that would still be 2.3 million that we would have to be able, if we were to look at a number around 500 or 300 or something.
At the very least, we should maybe get a list of possible, entities to do this. I don't want to put it off, but we gotta have some kind of idea about, what's the possibility? So what's the economic impact that have given this money?
There's 102 businesses that are affected.
And then go pretty soon, you could go through there and say, well, these, are these really regional or not regional? Or, I mean, anybody even look at the list? Do we even know anything besides 102?
I serve at the pleasure of the board. The majority of the board tells me what to do, I will do.
Would y'all be able to address that at all? They're from the long-term business working group? Or percentages that you think could fall within this idea?
So we'd have to put some kind of limitations on who to give the money to, right? I mean, we can't just give it to any
Well,
business.
Yeah, so to that, some of these give us permission to have their name, address, and their damages. To that, publicly share that would be a challenge.
I don't think we need public assurance, but somebody needs to.
But here's our timing is a big issue. In small business, it's all about getting back up, getting the cash register running again, and keeping the employees. Whatever definition you look at as a primary or an employer, or most employers think all of their employees are primary in their case, and it's a bigger picture than that as well too. As we know that we've learned through long-term recovery, you must get people back in their homes, but that's pointless if you don't have a place for them to go work, and vice versa. And building back up the businesses, some we currently know don't have homes to go to now. As we know personally, being at 98 Coronado, they're delayed on filling out their information because they've got to get to work, but yet they don't have a house to sleep in. So time is of the essence to get something going. And just to kind of give you some ideas about how this program can work, you don't just pull up to a facility and load your vehicle up with materials. You have to come to Jim through their business case management program. You have to prove up the need. You have to have estimates. You have to have either contractors or building material estimates. Then that Jim business case manager, that is their case manager that walks them through this whole process, physically goes and does an inspection and makes sure that if I need 55 sheets of sheetrock, that it's not 35 that I need, right? So there's a vetting process to it as well too. So you just don't come willy-nilly to get whatever you need. It's almost, you can scale it to where it's equitable. Those that need more get more, those that need less actually get less. To have a full damage assessment of what those needs are, we just don't have that right now. We're currently in the process of getting that, but we don't have every business. What is your need? What is your total devastation? What is your damages? Some of them are still getting those numbers. Some of those are moving forward with repairs. As you know, several of our tenants don't own their properties, but the property owner that runs his business out of that facility has sustained damage along with his tenants, and they own the building, and they've had damage at home. So it's very difficult at this point to find out exactly, do we need $300,000? Do we need $2 million in materials? We don't have that number at this time, but what we do have is a need. I mean, that's what we know we've identified. I went this weekend to a couple of the small businesses that had crews there that were actually working. And one of the things that we would like to talk about if we get down the road in this is a reimbursement program for those that went out and already started building to bring in their receipts to get reimbursed what they are out of pocket currently for their materials. But what we know is it's an urgency. Last year, I believe throughout the entire county, I think our total number of businesses affected were 78 or 79 was last year total affected, and we know we're over 100 in just city of Kerrville today.
Last year, Kerrville only incurred
23. Yeah.
So, Todd, I assume Jim is also helping people outside the city.
Yes, they are.
And
Yes.
They're helping people, want to help people in the city depending on their funds, but where are they getting funding from now to be able to do what they're doing?
So when Jim first came to town, these numbers will be close. They're a volunteer organization that serves around the globe, and they have donors that give to Jim. And when Jim came into town, they had, I believe, approximately $1 million in their account to spend within Kerr County. And that was building materials program, sheetrock program, tool replacement program, cash grant program that they expended those funds in 2005. From there, they seek grant funding from other sources to continue those programs. Community Foundation is one of their partners. James Avery is one of their partners that actually finds one of their programs that they have in their portfolio, and they seek grant funding for the most required. So they come to an LTRG and say, hey, business recovery or individuals, what is your most and highest need? And do we have a program that can help fill that gap? And we do, then we go seek grant funding that we're doing here today to fill that program with funds so that they can go implement that program. So they came to town with money in 2005. And then James Avery has participated in a building materials program as well through 2005. I wouldn't know, maybe Paul could speak if they're carrying that into 2006, but I know they've had their program. So they receive the funds directly from James Avery to implement the materials program.
So they have some funds now and always looking for more.
Always looking for more. I can't speak to exactly their amount of funding now, but it is relatively on fumes.
Well, they're
Still funding 25 rebuilds.
really, in my mind, brilliant administrators of this kind of program. That's their big advantage of them.
Yeah.
That they're good administrators,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah, they can account for things and keep it straight.
They have great reporting. They can report out how many business received, how much they received, what materials they received. So it's not a blanket. It's not just a blank check to say, hey, go get all the materials you need. And the businesses have to, when they come in, they have to apply for this materials grant. They also have to show where their business would be in the next 12 to 18 months and what it can do for them. I mean, it's a process. And again, it has guardrails to protect the funders.
So does it have guardrails about that if people who are really in need get that money versus people who, are just looking to get a free handout, wherever they can?
You can apply means testing to the program too, and it's a little bit deeper dive, but that's up to the pleasure of the board to determine what they would like those means tests to be. I throw some caution to that just based on my conversations in 25 and some challenges we had with getting some other businesses up and running in 25. is some of the means testings are you get real close and they let $5,000 stand in the way of a completed project or no funding. I mean, it can get really, you want to have some leniency, but you just don't want anybody to come get materials. There needs to be a purpose, and you need to show cause, and it needs to be a building that was directly affected. Because the other challenge we have is if we don't, and some of these businesses don't come back, then here go property tax devaluation, empty storefronts, and workforce will go somewhere else.
Michael, you said that we're asking the wrong, or we're having an argument for the wrong thing. So just to make sure I understand, since I'm a little bit slow, you're just asking if we'd be interested in funding this grant. Not a number yet, but just if we want to participate.
We would need, for today, right, what you would approve would be posting notice in the paper and calling for a public hearing.
And that would give us time to
That's
maybe
30
come up to a
days.
number.
That's at least 30 days. That's the next regularly scheduled meeting in September.
Have a vote.
So
I think we're all in favor of that.
wait just a second.
Now, there needs to be an amount,
Yeah, there needs to be an
right?
amount.
Well, that's not fair. You said
not-
it have to pick an amount.
Hey, not to exceed amount.
Not to
you can
exceed
do,
amount.
right?
But we did have a comment from Chris, yeah. He'll come to the speaker.
Yeah, thank you. For those that don't know me, Chris Hughes, I own Broken Arrow Ranch in Ingram, but also along with Paul Zip, co-chair of the Cur Together Long-Term Recovery Group, the business recovery group. So we've been working since 25, trying to get our businesses back up and running, and we're back at it again. And I just kind of wanted to take a moment to frame this conversation a little bit. One of the things that really shocked us as we began this process of recovery last year was the complete lack of resources that business had in the disaster recovery scenario. It really came down to the point that business recovery is not a part of a disaster recovery plan, not on the federal level, not on the state level. Insurance was not sufficient. A lot of these places are not even in flood zones. So the insurance that they have doesn't cover it, and there's limits to those insurance. For philanthropies, their philosophies for supporting businesses are not compatible. Most of them won't. It's in their charter to not help businesses. There's a lot of resources available for individuals and individual recovery, as there should be. There are very, very few available for businesses. GEM is one of those few VOADs, volunteer organizations that are available for businesses. Right after 26, we had an example of this. We had about 33 volunteer organizations sitting in the Cur Together office looking for places to work. 0 would go out and work and step foot into a business to help muck out that business. 0. Out of all the volunteer organizations that are in our town right now, none of them will help businesses as a part of their charter. It's not because they don't want to or they don't care to. That is not their mission, to help businesses. And it's a challenge. Well, along with that, you think, okay, you have SBA loans. Their whole purpose is to help businesses recover. Last year, we had about 330 businesses that received some kind of physical or economic damage in the county and in Comfort. We had just about that many apply to SBA loans. 4% actually got an SBA loan distributed to them. And that's just an example of a broken system. SBA is not the solution to help businesses. So what this comes down to is if you want businesses to recover, we have to find resources wherever those resources are available. And it's not going to be at the federal level. It's not going to be at the state level. It's not going to be from these volunteer organizations that are coming in. It's going to be right here. It's going to be right at the local level. We have to help ourselves. We're taking some initiatives to try to change that at a legislative level, the state, for state and federal, but that's a long way away. That's not going to help us this year. And so I don't know how many businesses are actually in the city limits of Kerrville. I mean, does anybody have that number?
900 chamber members, but that would be.
Yeah, but,
would be all of it.
right, so, but we've got 100 of them that are damaged. Not economically impacted. Many are economically impacted. 100 of them are physically damaged in some way. And that has got to be a high percentage of businesses within the Kerrville city limits. 20 of those have major damage. Places like T&T and Gibson's and things like that. That's major damage. And so we have to figure out how we can help our own economy recover. That's what this economic group does. And so, Mr. McKinney, I don't envy your job. We got dealt a bad hand. We got dealt 2 bad hands in a row. And there is no denying that there are more problems and there is more damage than there are resources. 100%. But there's fewer resources this time around than there was last time. And I think we have to start to decide, are we going to take the limited amount of resources, how are we going to use those to the highest effect? And are we going to use those for parks? Or are we going to use those to help regenerate business, which then regenerates sales tax, regenerates employees, and the trickle-down effect? And I think those are the decisions that have to be made. We did an economic impact study from last year, and it was limited in scope, but that's something we can certainly provide to you. I think Paul's got some of the details pulled up on that, but it was amazing to see the trickle-down impact of just 5%, 10% decline in visitation and how many millions of dollars that impacted in sales tax revenue.
Paul, do you have that with you right now?
I have some summary of it. I apologize. I was getting laptops over the last week and my system is a little
It's okay.
slow.
I think that this board would like to hear some
Sure,
of that.
and we can work to make that available. So that was coordinated through Texas A&M University as well as Schreiner University. And a majority of the damage, so again, this is just relative for your consideration. As Todd already alluded to, there were 79 businesses that were affected across Kerr County, Ingram, Kerrville, and then they rolled in Centerpoint and Comfort, and to get to that 79, 23 of those occurred or were in within the city limits of Kerrville. Only 27% of those had insurance. That may strike you as low, but as we've alluded to in some other discussions, a couple different things. One, flood insurance is not readily available, and many times it is very high for very low coverage, whether you're a resident or you're a business. One of the more beneficial insurance programs might be business interruption, which might give you a little bit of help if you were economically impacted because the road closed because they wouldn't let you out to West Kerr. But as we looked at this impact, so of the 79 from last year, 75% of their own their property. So these are property owners, not necessarily lenders. About 25% are going to be renters or taking up as tenants. But when we looked at last year, one of the things to call out, so tourism, we were kind of reflected on that one. 5%, they estimated that a 5% decline in overnight visitations, which affects your hot tax, which affects, potential jobs. They estimated that there would be a 5% would generate 36 lost jobs, 27,535 fewer visitors on a 5% loss, and a total revenue loss of about $650,000. Take that up to a 20% increase or decrease in your visitations, which this community and this economy is heavily driven by tourism. Okay? It can be argued whether or not an experience is exportable. I'll let y'all decide that. 20% decline would generate 110,000 fewer visits to the area. 144 jobs would be lost and $2.6 million in lost revenue. Now that's just for those businesses that would be impacted. That's not the entire impact. The study itself is super thick, and this is about a 2-page summary, so I apologize that I don't have the details on this any further. What I can tell you is that, as Chris alluded to, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, the resources coming in are less, both in dollars and in volunteers. The number of VOADs, that's voluntary organizations that are assisting in disaster, fewer. The number of volunteers that are helping with those VOADs, fewer. So the resources that are coming in are largely from within our community. They're not from without. Donors are telling multiple of our voluntary organizations that are assisting VOADs, the checks aren't coming. The dollars are not coming. The option that the community has is to consider block grants, which is what Asheville, North Carolina pursued through the state of North Carolina, trying to get additional assistance. That money was 2 years out. They're just now starting to push money from those block grants into their community. The question that we need to then think about is, can we survive for 2 years if there's no money coming? And the answer is not, it's all not necessarily just here, but the impact to the city of Kerrville is at least 5x last year from a number of businesses that were impacted. Of the 79 that were impacted last time, most of those, 55 of the 79, were out in Ingram and Hunt. Think of the epicenter that happened with this flood. It is not West Kerr, it is Kerrville. So,
Did anybody have an update on where FEMA is? I saw Pete Flores sent a letter, but I don't know what that means or what the process is, or.
that's not my purview.
It's insignificant and it's slow and not, just assume it's not helping.
My understanding that,
Mike, I'd like to question.
Can he answer this question real quick?
that governor's office wants to make one push. President, flooding hadn't finished south of us, so, which was years. So hopefully the assessments are wrapping up. The governor's office would make it to Washington soon. My understanding of it.
If Michael, if we chose to make a decision on money, chose to try this, 30 days, we have a hearing, then what happens?
So what?
I'm trying to figure a timeline of what happens if we do something.
So if depending on what you decide today, say you go down that route, William and I and Jim, whomever, would start drafting an agreement to coincide with that public hearing. So that agreement is essentially the public hearing. And then if that's approved, that has to go to council for ratification. And technically, from the date of the first publication in the paper to 60 days past that date, that's the first day that the money can be released to Jim. Because if someone decides to protest, they get 10% or 5% or 10% of the voters who voted in the last general election here. I've never actually seen it happen, but that's what, yeah. So 60 days from, say, Wednesday of this week would be the first day that that money could be released to Jim if all of those things happened.
Is that doable, Todd?
We want it tomorrow, but.
Yeah, so Michael and I and Chris and Paul have had this conversation, and in recovery, that's an eternity. That's why if this is a project that EIC pushes through, that's one of the key elements to the reimbursement, that they at least know there's opportunity coming, that if I can go maximize my credit cards and get, that I know there is an opportunity to me to at least bring receipt inspections back on the reimbursement. And I know that's part of what Avery's program is moving to at the moment as well too, is to have that hope, because can we wait 60 days? No. But As an option of the reimbursement side, yes, that gives them, hey, there is a program coming that I potentially can qualify for and I can get some reimbursement.
So I think you, Todd, know, I'm all for helping the businesses. I think we need to do something, but I'm playing devil's advocate here. So we approve something today. Does the city council have to take action on it within 30 days? Because if they're still trying to figure out their budget, could they table that for a decision? And I'm trying to give Kent here some wiggle room, because I understand what they're going through. I mean, they're trying to figure it out too. And they might say, we can't let go of $1 million right now. We got to figure it out. We need another 60 days or another 30 days. Is that realistic, what I'm saying? Or do you think that if we approve something that the city council would be able to move on it in 30 days, whether they approve it or not?
Well, I think the numbers are so big that I don't know that you're going to find out anything that's going to make the numbers smaller enough to change anything. I mean, I think the number is just going to be huge no matter what.
Right.
And so I don't know without putting any reason to put the decision off.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Right.
So what we would do is there'd be a public hearing for y'all, then there'd be a public hearing for council. And they can act on that, they can deny it, they can push it to a later meeting. I mean, those are all options that are within their scope.
I think when we looked at the calendar, that our next meeting will be the day before a council meeting. So it could go.
Next meeting.
It's a WID.
Not tomorrow, not next week, but I'm sorry, our September meeting.
It'll still be a week before theirs. Yeah.
So our September meeting would be where we would have the public hearing, most likely.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the following week, it would go to council. And then that would be 3 weeks later, basically, if they approve it, that the money would be released. Close to.
If they push their decision to a future council meeting, it would still fall within the 60-day window of when the money could actually be released.
All right.
I didn't sign up for this.
Neither did I.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
We're not getting paid enough to do this.
Should have asked somebody on the board.
I should have asked. There's 2 people I should have asked. That's right.
So do we have someone who would like to make a motion with a not to exceed number included in it, that we can post that we would like to entertain this resolution and post a public meeting to be held in September, at our next September board meeting?
I'll make the motion that we not to exceed $1 million be allocated for approval in to help the local businesses.
Can I add something?
Sure,
Can I have
absolutely.
a comment about that? One of the things that we had talked about is maybe not taking that full $1 million, because that really puts us
Well, I said not to
Lower.
exceed.
right. But if we end up doing just 300 or 400 or 500, then it doesn't look very good for us to say not to exceed 1,000. But maybe if we were to say not to exceed 500, and then get a temperature on what's happening with that 500, and then we could come back and do it again.
I'm fine with that.
Would you be okay with
Yeah.
that? Because that
It's-
helps to keep us. I don't want to say that we're going to not to exceed $1 million, and we do, I don't know, 400 or something, or whatever it is.
It's already hard enough to ask for it now. I don't want to ask for it twice. Why don't we just say $1 million?
I don't know. What do you think of public opinion when we can only do 400?
We back it up with data. I mean, I'm worried about painting ourselves in a corner. If we can even get the money, and then we only do 300 or 500 instead, I bet you they're going to need every bit of that $1 million. Then
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit, and maybe William and Michael want to talk about this. When I first entered the EIC, on the board, Gary Cochran was on the board, and he was very, very clear with me that the EIC money is not the city's bank account. So it really is up to the board to determine how the money is used. So
Good luck with that.
do we want to have any kind of discussion on that? I mean,
Do I want to have a discussion
No.
with you on that? Tender my
maybe
resignation.
am I incorrect?
I've heard the same thing, but I also hear where Kent is coming from and what he's saying too. And I mean, we can have that discussion. But yes, I've heard that from other EIC members that it's not the city's money. But I don't know that I legally I don't know what the legal terms are to that I would agree or disagree with it. But I've heard that same thing said.
You
But
say
if-
what
if
you
we
want, but it
say-
takes the
Right.
council's approval to do
It's
it.
got
But
veto power.
if we
so-
keep
Right,
it like
so-
at 500, then it also allows us opportunities to help the city with other projects, with some of the infrastructure projects that are coming up. They're gonna have a lot of, water usage and, sewer stuff.
Madam Chair, if I may, within the contract with Jim, I think it'd be very wise, and I know Jim has done this in their other contracts with other funders, to put some performance measures within that to come back to you and report. That if you had a do not exceed, and at some point within the contract, you can relook and visit the performance, the businesses, the take rate, the need, kind of as we go through the program, and put some controls on how much of that money is released out at a time. I mean, I know that's something we could definitely do within the contract.
We would still need to have some sort of parameters about what would qualify for the money.
Right.
That we do. It'd have to be primary jobs. No,
But-
however you can stretch that or
Right.
whatever,
We're gonna
but there
stretch
still
it.
needs to be in the contract.
So all of those things today was about, what is the consensus of the board? The next 30 days is all the things that you're talking about. Like, we don't have them all worked out, but yes, parameters, yes, guardrails, yes, clawbacks, all of those things, reporting back to you all on what needs to be done, what the money was spent on, right? Forecasting how quickly that money will be spent into the future, because it may be that it takes 90 days or 6 months to get $500,000 out the door. It may be 2 weeks. I don't know. I wish I knew. So I think over the next 30 days, we can track down a lot of that information if y'all are amenable to it. So I heard somebody make a half a motion and then it stopped. So
I will just say I'm more open to 500,000, so that we don't limit ourselves for some other kinds of things that might be coming up down the pike. But
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, obviously, again, I'd love to help all the businesses with $100 million, and I know we can't do that. So,
Right.
I mean, whatever we feel as a group, if we feel $500,000 is a number that we can actually afford and that the city is okay with, I'm fine with 500,000. So,
where are you sitting, Gil?
Well, is that your motion?
sure.
Well, I mean.
Then I'll second.
I was going, okay, so let's add to your motion, if you'll just
Well,
put it,
hold on.
okay.
You have a motion and a second.
Oh, okay,
You
so
gotta-
that's just one half of the motion now?
You guys gotta stop with this. If somebody makes a motion, somebody makes a second, you gotta vote on it.
Okay,
Or you can
So-
have a discussion. You can have further discussion.
Yeah, we have further discussion.
I thought we would have further discussion.
Okay.
You can.
Just you can't amend the
Open it
motion.
up for further discussion.
Okay,
You gotta
I'm
vote on
opening
it or
up for
not.
further
Okay, there you go.
discussion.
Okay, so the motion is not to exceed the 500,000 at this point in time, seconded by Beck Gibson.
Okay, so all in favor?
We're opening up for discussion.
Well, I thought I was, and then it didn't seem like there
We
was.
discussed it and y'all decided on 500.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you
Okay,
can-
is
I
there a
mean,
discussion?
So I mean, you can discuss the motion. You can't amend the motion after
Okay.
someone makes it. You can discuss it
Can
all you
we,
want.
Then it
do
can
we
be
want
voted
to-
down and a new
You
emotion.
can amend it and have
Okay.
a new motion.
is there discussion on this motion?
I don't want to go back and ask for money twice, but I'm outnumbered here. So if we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's do it right.
Any other discussion on what Justin's saying? Okay, now we'll have our vote. Here
we go.
We are voting on a resolution to allow 500,000 up to 500,000 to go to Jim to be distributed to businesses. All those in favor and all those opposed. So there are 4 of us. That passes 4-1. And
I'm used to 4 to 1.
So we will track down, we will post this in the paper. We will track down answers to as many of the questions as we can get. I think Todd alluded to, there may be some limits to, of all those businesses, exactly how much, those metrics, right? We don't even get, actually, sales tax data is private. Nobody's really allowed to see how much sales tax someone's generating unless they offer it publicly. Julie gets to see it in a report that no one else is allowed to see. But we will do everything we can to track down that information between Todd and myself, and William will work on what that language needs to look like.
Well, thank you very much. Very, very appreciative.
Okay. Are there going to be items for future agendas that we want to add from tonight?
Can we do that in an emergency meeting? I don't think so.
I don't know. It's on
Well,
our.
we have a meeting next week, right?
Yeah,
Right.
we have a meeting next.
Normally, we
wouldn't do
don't
that.
have this on
A
an
special.
emergency. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's on the agenda, so I just wanted to call attention to that. All right.
So the only other question I had for future agendas is that this is, the plan is to have one funding request go out, and that will be heard, and that's it. There was discussion about funding LIFT Fund, funding Chamber of Commerce, Foundation, etc. Those weren't a part of today's discussion.
My understanding is those were kind of eliminated because of the primary job requirement.
The main,
So
yeah. So I don't want to entertain all that. I don't want to presume to know what you all want to do. And so,
well, I think this is different than what we talked about or what we had in mind at our last meeting, but based upon the rules and the regulations, this is what we came up with. I mean,
yes, sir.
this wouldn't be my first choice, but it's not, and it's different than what we talked about. It's still noble, and I'm glad we're able to do it, but originally we talked about doing grants.
I don't know if we're able to do it.
Well, it will still be grants out of.
Well, but different than what we were talking about, help trying to get money into the hands of the individuals
businesses
opposed to
directly.
going through and
Oh.
doing construction grants or facility grants that, but that's what the statute says, so that's what we can do.
So do we need another motion that specifies this is to Jim?
No. I think we have what we need there.
Really, because I think we're getting it down now. We could do 1 or 2 more.
All right. Michael, are you ready for us to adjourn?
Serve at the pleasure of the board, ma'am.
So we are adjourned. It's 5:15.